and welcome to Lincoln to Local. I'm Rachel Havens, and today I've got Steve Thompson here with me from our Public Policy Department. And Steve, we can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel as session kind of starts to come to a close. How have you seen things change this week?
The pace of the Capitol has really slowed down as far as number of bills coming across the floor and bigger public meetings there, committee meetings, things like that. As they've begun to focus on budget negotiations, and we really feel like they're in truly the home stretch now. And so we spent a lot of time at the Capitol this week, but it was fairly quiet while we were there, so we had a lot of time one-on-one with members, and we were able to still continue a couple of our county visits. Some members from Payne County and Oklahoma County came and connected them with their legislators, and really were able to do a little bit of research on what was left and make sure that we knew where they stood in the process and what we needed to be focused on for the next couple of weeks. And because we really think that they may finish a little bit early this year, so there's 2, maybe 3 weeks at the most left in the session, so it's a very critical point.
So like you said, there's still a couple weeks left, and I know we still do have a couple of things kind of left in the hopper. Will you give us an update on some of those final bills we're tracking?
That's right. There's some things that we've worked on all session long, and we've talked about quite a bit, both with marijuana and county assessors. And several of the marijuana pieces of legislation are really stalled at the current time, and our group began to get concerned that they would get left behind because when they get ready to wrap up over there and they finish the budget, they do tend to finish things up quickly. And if your legislation is not really ready to go, it gets left behind. So we spent a long time meeting with leadership this week to try to focus on what the priorities are. And we had 10 to 12 bills that we thought were very appropriate to the situation. And it appears at this point in time that list has been cut down to, I think we're focusing on our top 6 priorities when it comes to that. But we think that we've made some progress in getting those out of the ditch and back up and moving. And so in the next couple of weeks, we should have an update on that. As far as county assessors go, that's a topic that we've covered seemingly from start to finish in multiple bills, and it's become quite controversial the last few weeks. County assessors have spent some time at the Capitol and have tried to contact school superintendents and others concerned about how the funding changes through those bills would possibly affect schools, and we're really there to try to help that process out and kind of work out all the kinks. And some of those really controversial bills have seen some refinement this week, and so we think that the best of both worlds have come together where we can speed up some of those protests for ad valorem that were causing our members and the schools concern, as well as let the county assessors still do their jobs effectively and efficiently. So I'm not sure that everybody's happy, but sometimes that's the best legislation when everybody has to give a little bit. And so we expect to see a couple of major pieces of legislation in the last 2 weeks that we hope addresses some of the problems that we heard from our members about those ad valorem protests.
Definitely. Well, it sounds like there's been some continued oil and gas negotiations as well over there this week. Will you give us an update on that?
We spent several hours locked in meetings the last 2 weeks negotiating on behalf of royalty and mineral owners. Our participation with the Royalty Owners Coalition of Oklahoma has led us to be at the forefront of those discussions with the oil and gas industry, and that's something that we've worked on for 3 or 4 years and off and on throughout the session, and that's really become intense now in the last few weeks. And we think that we're coming closer than ever to a good compromise that gives mineral and royalty owners a little bit more information when it comes to their payment information, as well as fixes some administrative problems that the oil and gas companies were having, tracking payments and taxes and things like that. And the scope of that discussion has narrowed somewhat. Each side's probably going to have to leave behind something that they wanted and able to come to a mutually agreeable compromise. But thanks to the great work of House Majority Floor Leader John Echols and Senator Zach Taylor, I think that we have a really good working group on that, and we're still working out some of the kinks, but we're very optimistic that we'll see progress for everybody involved in that endeavor.
Well, that's definitely good news. So as we kind of come to a close on session and start to wrap up, I know the legislators over the Capitol moved to some discussions on the state budget. Will you give us a budget update and some of the things that they're looking at?
That's right. That seems to be kind of the thing that everybody's talking about, kind of waiting to see and want to make sure that the right priorities are still included in that proposal. And that's all done behind closed doors until we get right down to the final week or so. And so we've been doing a lot of work trying to check on that and talk with the Appropriations Committee. And we're very excited. The feedback we've received, some of the things that we've been trying to make sure are in there involving the Drought Emergency Relief Commission to put some money in at the Department of Agriculture in case it doesn't start raining in western Oklahoma. We're going to have some really big needs this summer, and to have some money available for them to fix some situations where you might not have water available for your livestock, things like that. They could help with some of those projects. And then one of the things that we've worked on for a number of years was helping in some funding for the OSU Veterinary College, and as well as some incentives for large animal veterinarians across the state. And we've been assured that that's still part of the discussion, and we feel like on behalf of all of animal agriculture in Oklahoma, that's a very good investment for the state. And it's a small piece of a bigger education budget, but we're really excited that they're addressing some of the needs for agriculture in the state.
That's great news. Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Lincoln to Local.